What up, y'all? It's the homie Dame, and once again, it's time for some hot takes. This is a series on the channel where you send me your hottest takes on Twitter or YouTube, and I make fun of your embarrassing opinions here on video. These can be takes about anime and manga, obviously, because that's what I usually talk about on this channel, but they could also be about other pop culture stuff, like movies, music, video games, and even just life in general. Not gonna lie, last episode had some good stuff to talk about, so hopefully y'all were locked in with the takes this time around as well. But yeah, otherwise, let's just get right into it. First take is from Elijah. I believe people should judge shows for the goal they were looking to achieve within the show. For example, a show like Demon Slayer receives unnecessary hate for having a basic plot, but that's the whole point. Is to have a normal plot. That's the whole point, is to have a normal plot and stellar animation for a Western audience. Way to start it out on a good note, Elijah, because this is not only a great topic that makes for interesting discussion, but it's also something that I 100% agree with. Except that last part. I don't think the reason Demon Slayer has good animation is just to appeal to the West, as if the rest of us don't like good animation too. But yeah, if you've watched this channel for any amount of time, you know that this is something I say over and over again. I personally judge a work of art based on what the author's intent is. Basically, how well do they accomplish what they were trying to accomplish? And the example I always use is a music related one. It would be stupid to judge a K-pop girl group like Twice and say that they're trash because their lyricism isn't on the level of someone like Kendrick Lamar or something. Twice is just a girly bubblegum pop group. They're not trying to make a To Pimp a Butterfly. They're trying to make catchy pop, and they excel at that, which is what makes them good, in my opinion. And again, going back to the example in the tweet, I think Demon Slayer excels at the things it's trying to do, which is give us stunning fight scenes and crazy seizure-inducing action and all that fun stuff that all y'all like. It's not trying to be something like, let's say, Monogatari, so why count that as a fault against it? That was never the intent of the mangaka or anyone at Studio Ufotable. Alright, next one is from Hoofstu. I think you've been on here before. Congrats on making it again. A show always needs to have a quality or interesting opening, otherwise I'm never gonna give it a shot. Like, I know I shouldn't judge a show from its OP, but this is them showing me what the show is all about. Are there any big quality shows that don't have a good one? Okay, this is interesting. First of all, if that's what you like a good opening, and that's what gets you into a show, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. As for me personally, I don't really care. But here's the thing. I'm going with the assumption that when you say you want a good OP, you want a good traditional anime opening that's like, a minute and 30 seconds long at most and has a cool song and cool visuals, all that. Me personally, I don't need any of that. And I would actually prefer if anime stopped doing that. Oh shit, that's the real hot take, right? I actually prefer much more toned down but still memorable openings like The Walking Dead's opening, or a better example would actually be the Game of Thrones opening, because Game of Thrones still has the cool music and visuals, but it's not like an anime opening, if you know what I'm saying. And if it was up to me, shows could just honestly skip the opening altogether and just do something like Invincible, where they just drop the title card in a creative way and then, move on with the damn episode. Like, let's get to it, chop chop. We don't need no Asian Kung Fu Generation singing on here. I'll go listen to one of their albums if that's the case, and I want to listen to them. I want to watch the show right now. Actually though, on a similar wavelength, I would prefer if all the music and visuals that go into anime openings were instead focused on the endings. Because anime endings are creative and have memorable songs as well, but they're sort of secondary to the openings in terms of how loved they are by fans. I would prefer if it was the opposite. We just have a simple, straight to the point opening sequence so we can get to the actual show, and then a dope and creative ending sequence that's, unique and gets people to actually watch the credits, so all those overworked animators can actually get their moment of shine. Okay, Karuto says, I actually like Morgana from Persona 5 and don't understand why people hate him to the degree they do. You know who should be here to talk about this? My boy Sammy was here, because if I remember correctly, I think he said that Morgana is one of his least favorite characters in the franchise, so I don't know if he's gonna watch this or not, but I wish you were here for the Morgana slander. But yeah, as for me, I kind of agree. As far as Persona characters go, Morgana isn't exactly my favorite, but yeah, I don't think he's nearly as bad as people say he is. Like, I'm gonna be real, it doesn't bother me at all when he forces you to go to sleep, or where it seems like he tries to railroad you into a decision. I know it's mostly a meme when people complain about that, but there are people who genuinely dislike him for forcing them to sleep when they don't want to, and it's like, bro, that's just a gameplay thing. It's not the fault of Morgana the character. In other Persona games, it would just be like the main character's inner thoughts telling them, oh, I should probably go to bed for tonight. In Persona 5, though, Morgana unfortunately gets tasked with this duty, so he gets the blame for it. But he is still tripping when he clowns on Ryuji unprovoked, though. The real worst character in Persona 5 is Futaba, but hey, motherfuckers was on my ass when I said that on my tier list video, but I'm standing on it. Okay, this one is from YouTube. The expectation for quality in an anime has risen to such a high standard that it will gradually damage the anime community more and more over time. Now that's interesting to think about. I actually saw a viral tweet that was going around the other day. I wish I could remember exactly what it was. But basically it's like comparing the graphics of a bunch of games and asking which one is the best, and then someone quote tweeted it saying, this is why the video game industry is imploding on itself or something. The implication, of course, being that the high standards for visual quality is the reason production costs are so high and why it costs like $12 billion and 10 years of development to make a AAA game. So I'm gonna assume that this take is talking about something similar when they say, you know, the quality in anime. Basically, they're saying the animation expectations for a show are so high that it's just gonna mess up the whole anime industry with rising costs and unrealistic audience expectations. I would say I sort of agree with this. Because here's the thing, a show needs to look good, right? Going back to the video game example, even if it doesn't have hyper-realistic graphics, it still needs to be visually appealing. Since we talked about Persona earlier, that's a pretty good example. It's not like it's a picture-perfect 8K resolution photographic looking graphic thing, but the art style is rendered in a visually appealing way, so it looks good within the aesthetic that it's trying to create. It's the same thing with anime. Not everything needs to look like Fate Stay Night, and not everything has to have perfectly captured human-like animations for small slice-of-life moments like Chainsaw Man or something. Except, I mean, why not? You can have amazing, good-looking animation, but I think people confuse good-looking animation with just more realistic or higher frames or more Sakuga. I think that's the problem. And also the even bigger problem than that is to expect such great animation to be put out in such a short amount of time. That's the real issue. Because I know that's definitely the problem for me. It's the expectation of a million new anime every season that all look like a Studio Ghibli movie. Because contrary to popular belief, you look at anime back in the day and they had great looking visuals too, but that's because the studios actually had time to work on that stuff. Because at the end of the day, a lot of animators are passionate about their art. They want to make these shows look good. They want to add the Sakuga. They want to add those creative flares when they're passionate about something. Just look at a show like Bocchi the Rock. There's so many times the animators go above and beyond to do something visually creative. Again, it's not necessarily that 8K resolution photorealism, but it looks good for what it is. So when we talk about expecting a quality anime, I think it isn't too wrong to want that sort of thing as long as you don't have unrealistic expectations, right? Because obviously that's not fair to the animators themselves, because we all know they have it hard enough already. So maybe just release less anime every year and just let animators make each one as best as they possibly can regardless of how long it takes. And besides, it's much more important to me for something to be visually interesting, like the Persona example earlier, than to just be better animated. Like again, more frames or more realistic looking or however you want to define it. Again, I don't know if that's the quality this person is talking about in their take, because they could also mean quality as in storytelling and writing, and then if that's the case, no, you should expect that in everything you watch. Why would you not want something that's well written? What the fuck? Oh, and speaking of good writing, it doesn't matter how well a story is written or how deep the plot is, it's still entertainment, and if it's not entertaining overall, then I simply won't enjoy it. You understand that good writing makes something entertaining, right? These things aren't mutually exclusive or anything. This ties back into what we talked about earlier with Demon Slayer. Like, people will say, oh, Demon Slayer is poorly written, it's just entertainment and spectacle, but you realize that you have to write it that way to be entertaining, right? You have to sit down and come up with the idea to have Tanjiro doing his little flips around the screen or whatever. I don't understand why people think that these are separate things, like, oh, this has a well-written story and the plot is deep, but it's not entertaining, so I don't like it. Well, then it probably wasn't that well written to begin with. People who call Megan Thee Stallion a fake anime fan are also the same people who say, why can't I find a girl who watches anime? Yeah, that's true. I mean, why do people always have to be skeptical about these kind of things anyway? How hard is it to take things at face value? If Meg Thee Stallion says she's an anime fan, cool, that's dope. And if it turns out she was lying or something just to look relatable, okay, whatever, I'm not losing sleep over it. Like, what is the point of your first reaction being to scrutinize someone's claim? Like, it's like that meme where it's like, oh, this musical artist is your favorite, well then name 5 of your albums or you're a fake fan. It's like, Who cares, bro? It's not that deep. After a few years, love for your favorite anime slash manga slash movie, etc. will burn out and they've be just not necessarily. I've had the same favorite bunch of movies since the 1980s. Sometimes it'll shift and sometimes I'll add new ones, but it's not like I've all of a sudden stopped loving The Exorcist after 30 years. I still rewatch that movie all the time. And I don't know if this is true, but aren't there studies that say that people tend to form their music taste when they're a teenager and it's more or less set for their entire lives? I mean, that's why there's so much nostalgia and people saying, oh man, music, movies, and TV shows were so much better when I was a kid. These Gen Zers don't know real anime, they don't know nothing about no Trigun or Ghost in the Shell. Taste definitely can change over time, and you for sure can get tired of something you once liked as a kid, but I don't think that's a certainty, it just depends on the person. This is less of an anime-specific hot take and more general media. We need more grounded historical fiction. I'm so tired of mythological and fantasy elements being shoved down my throat everywhere I look. More Vinland Sagas and Vagabonds, please. Oh man, I heavily disagree with this. I think we need more historical fantasy, if that's the term for it. You know how many endless movies there are about World War II or Vietnam or even grounded historical fiction like The Patriot or something that might as well just be fantasy because of how inaccurate it is. I want to see crazy shit like Fate where King Arthur is a little anime girl, or those wuxia movies where Chinese historical figures are flying through the trees and fighting dragons and shit. Although maybe in anime we could use more grounded historical fiction because it's pretty underrepresented there, but this person said general media, so yeah. There is no way you're 48. You look like 26 or something. Well, I'm actually 46, so yeah. I'll be 47 in September though. I got two takes, so bear with me. One, Jason Tatum is the biggest fraud in the league. This year, he has only faced injured teams in a weak East. Every time this man goes up against an actually good team, he folds under pressure. 2022 Warriors and 2020 Heat. He's been given super teams yet can't win anything important. The Celtics 1000% lose to the Mavs in the finals. Come on, bro. Look, I don't like the Celtics as much as the next guy, but unironically calling Tatum a fraud when he's never missed the playoffs is nuts. Like, I hate the argument people use when they're like, oh, it doesn't count because they faced an injured team. Oh, you know, this is a hospital ring. It's Mickey Mouse. A team can only play whoever is in front of them. Like, what are they supposed to do? They see Jimmy Butler is injured, so they just bend over and let the Heat beat them? No, a championship beats the teams they're supposed to beat, because we've seen upsets happen, so it's not like these things are guaranteed where a 1 seed is always going to beat an 8th seed. I agree that the Mavericks would beat them though, because Luka would undebatably be the best player on the court, but I mean, let's not slander Jason Tatum though. He's nice with it. And let the Celtics fuck around and win, because the conversation is going to be really different then. Okay, as for your second take, yeah, I agree. My anime list is pretty dumb. New gen anime, old gen anime, 2010s gen anime. Okay, so basically you're saying the 2010s were the best era for anime. I mean, not the worst opinion to have. Hey, a lot of my favorite shows came out in the 2010s. The thing is, I'm old as fuck though, so I consider the 2010s to be new gen still. BioShock Infinite is not the worst game of all time, not even a bad game, but holy fuck, it was disappointing. Monotonous, dull, pretentious, poorly designed gameplay-wise, and the worst of all, sometimes it got really boring. That is crazy to me, because yeah, I have heard people say this before and I get it, but I love BioShock Infinite. So the BioShock series is one of my favorite video game franchises ever, and I loved every game, but BioShock Infinite hit for me in such an insane way I can't even explain it. Even now, just thinking about it is getting me like misty-eyed, because I played it at a point in my life where it was just like, you know, this is the shit I need right now. And granted, that's all probably nostalgia and rose-tinted glasses, but whatever. I still like that game, and Elizabeth is a generational waifu. Real ones moan when they wipe on the toilet. Just make sure it's not too loud so your family members, roommates don't get bothered. Alright, man. It's time to end the video. Get me out of here. Y'all want to know one of my hot takes though? Denny's breakfast burritos with some sour cream and hot sauce, all-time great food. I know you can just make a breakfast burrito easily enough yourself, but I've been ordering this multiple times in the past few months and they just, I don't know, they hit for some reason.